So most of the time when these collection agencies are sending out mail, they send out what you call snail mail. And snail mail is regular mail. Put a letter in an envelope, put a stamp on it, send it out. Well, how many times have you gotten somebody else's mail in your mailbox?
Tons of times.
Okay, then. So who's to say that you actually got the mail? Even if you got it, you didn't get it. Okay? So the only way for them to actually prove that you received the mail is they would have to send a certified with a receipt showing some with your signature on it. So I tell a lot of my mentees, and you can put the camera on me now. I tell a lot of my mentees, listen, make sure that you ask them if they sent out proper notification. And if they did send out proper notification, ask them to show you the letter they sent out, signed, sealed, with your signature on it, with a receipt. Showing that you received the letter, okay? If, in fact, they can't prove that you actually received the letter, then they don't have no proof that you actually was aware of the debt.
Hey, business owners, what if I told you that for just 90 cents a day, you could get access to $45,000 in business funding? I just launched my Credit Mastery community where inside you're going to be getting exclusive access to our in-depth training program worth tens of thousands of dollars that's going to teach you the exact strategies you need on how to restore your credit and on how to properly structure your business. You're also going to be getting access to a financial consultant with over a decade of experience in the funding space that's going to be working with you to reach your financial goals in half the time it would take if you were to do it on your own. And we're going to be providing you 2 coaching calls a week where we're going to teach you the exact banks that you need to go to get access to anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 in business funding. This is the same community that helped Pat access $50,000 in funding from Chase, help Alvin get $8,000 in funding from Amex, help Matt boost his credit score by over 150 points, and help Donna delete a bankruptcy from her credit report. So if you're interested, click the link above or below the video to join now, and we'll see you on the other side of success. Let's go, family. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Marvin Francois Show, your #1 source for all things business, finance, and investing. And today, is a very special day because our guest today is a father, mentor, coach, entrepreneur, investor, and business funding expert extraordinaire. He's the CEO of Max Score, a company dedicated to equipping entrepreneurs with the mentorship needed to make accessing funding to scale their businesses simpler than it's ever been. Whether he's hosting free masterclasses in front of thousands on how to get negative items deleted from their credit reports, or in and out of banks forming strategic relationships with lenders and giving you the gems on how you can do it too, his mission to help entrepreneurs acquire funding for business growth is proof that his success in this space is not coincidence, it's confirmation. And today, he's here to do more of the same. Ladies and gentlemen, from Cleveland, Ohio, by way of Atlanta, Georgia, I'm here with the one, the only, my guy, Mr. Andre Wanzo. What's going on, family? How are you?
How you doing, man? Thank you for having me on.
Man, listen, I'm extremely excited to bring the Wanzo way over here to the Marvin Francois Show, man. How was the travel over here?
It was nice, man. I got the opportunity to see New York a little bit more, on the Brooklyn side, in addition to being downtown Manhattan. So it was always good.
Good. Very, very. It's always dope when we ever have, great individuals like yourself to be able to come on and bless the platform. More importantly, bless the audience with a lot of the free game that we're going to get into today. I'm excited. I know you are as well. But before we get into that, I know that there are a few people who are watching this episode right now who may not be too familiar with you. So we want to get them familiar. So for those who don't know, who exactly is Andre Wanzo?
Well, I would describe myself as a person that actually knows a lot about the financial space and want to get people more familiar with what needs to happen in that space, right? Because as we come up, we're not really inclined to know a lot of financial information during our years in school, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of us hit bumps in the road as we're moving along. However, now that, the internet has been out there to actually help us with understanding things more in detail, we can kind of elevate it a little bit differently now. So I just want to be a part of that, right? Because I know some of the bumps in the road that I hit trying to understand finances and how to use them and how to actually put them in place to make sure that I can actually enhance my lifestyle was a struggle for me. So now I can know how to do it a little bit better, and I like to share that with other people as well.
I love that. You talked a little bit about your bumps in the road that you faced before you got to this point. You're one of those individuals, if you know, you know. When we talk about funding, you have had a very profound impact on the individuals you've worked with, the individuals that you've mentored and beyond. But like you said, it wasn't always like this. You had to go through a little bit of a journey before you got here. I'm going to rattle off a couple of names and let me know if any of these sound familiar. So we have ProSys Systems, we have Apex Systems, and we have Global IT Firm, if I'm correct. So these are actually some of the places that you used to work as a systems engineer, and a lot of people don't know that. Talk to us a little bit about how you went from working in the system space to now becoming such a prominent figure now within the world of business funding.
Well, first we need to address, are you the feds? That's the first thing.
I just do my research, man. That's it.
I mean, we need to understand that you got my fingerprints too, DNA. Like, what the heck, man? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, actually, I come from an engineering background, technology background. I've dealt with technology since I was 14 years old. I always wanted to understand or be in a space where it would be actually impossible for you to be without a career. And technology is never going to go anywhere, right? So I started studying a lot about electronics, and then I got into the world of information technology, which is computers. So I ended up becoming an engineer, architect, and then an enterprise architect, which is the highest level of architecture you can be in the IT space. But what I learned during the being in that space is that I'm a very logical person. So I always think logically, right? So I took that mentality and moved into the financial space. That's why a lot of times when you watch what I'm doing, I'm dealing with a lot of strategies, right? I'm trying to understand how things work, because in my mentorship, I tell people, in order to defeat something, you got to know how it works, right? Yep. So that's the way you overcome things. So I got into technology knowing that it will give me the discipline to understand and think at a with patience, you know what I'm saying? So that's how I got into technology.
Now, how do you make that transition into the finance space from technology? Because that's a very, it's not, I don't know too many people that have gone from tech into the world of finance and had such a profound effect since getting in there. How did that happen for you?
Well, one day I wanted to do something, right? And I was like, every time you go apply for something, they ask for, this word is always used. It was credit. It was credit. And I'm like, okay. So let's really understand how powerful credit is, right? So once I really dove into it, and like I say, I do a lot of research, so I'm diving into credit, understanding credit, things of that nature, because no matter what you apply for, no matter what you're doing, whether you want a house, go to school, a car, they're always going to ask for credit, right? And since I understood that, I'm like, well, let me understand what credit is all about, right? So once I start understanding what credit is all about and understanding how it would open up all the financial doors for you, I started getting more in tune to it. So one day, I had some on my credit report. I'm like, there's a way around everything, right? So how do I get this off? So I did some research and tried to get it off. It came off. I was like, well, work. So I'm like, well, let me see what else I can get off. So once I actually was, successful with getting a number of things off, I really, really started tuning in to how this can be beneficial to me in more ways than one, right? Not only to give us the opportunity to get into into banks and things of that nature, but to actually be able to get us funding and so we can move it into businesses as we see fit. So the transition came because when I learned that the money I was making, which wasn't a small chunk of change, by the way, in a week or in a month doing a 9 to 5, what I can make in a day or two in the financial space, that was enough for me. Because now I can work less and be more free. So now it's a way to gain your freedom back, right? Because a 9 to 5 holds you. It holds you down, right? It puts you in a cubicle for 8 hours every day, most of the time. I did that for a long time, right? Which I'm glad I did, because it gave me the discipline to make sure I don't go back. Right. So that's how the transition actually happened.
I love it. And then from there, now talk a little bit about not only the success you've been able to have in terms of how much funding you've been able to acquire on the business side for yourself, but also the impact you've been able to have on your mentees as well. Because I see them all over the internet. I see them all over social media, posting receipts, $25,000 here, $15 there, hashtag the Wanzo everywhere. Talk a little bit about that as well.
Well, in the group that we're in, right? Which shout out to Herman Doss, right? Success has receipts, right?
Yes, sir.
prior to Herman, right, I was always a person that liked to be able to prove what I'm talking about,
Right.
right? Because if you're able to prove it, then who can deny you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So with my mentees, you don't follow somebody that hasn't done something for themselves, right?
Right.
If you did it, then show me,
Yeah.
right? And then I can believe that you can do it for me,
Right.
right? So a lot of my mentees follow the actual structure that I put in place, right? The strategies that I use, right? Because I'm more of a situational person. So you would say something like somebody has a blueprint. I have blueprints, but I deal with more situations because everybody's situation is not the same.
Right.
Right? So you got to be able to figure it out. And in my mentorship, I teach my mentees on how to actually think more than just go by a blueprint. You follow what I'm saying?
I'm with you.
So it's very different because you're not just going by, something that somebody wrote out, go A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Right.
You're like, no, it might be G.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's A. Now it's B. You get what I'm saying?
with you.
It's mixed around. So you have to actually learn how to think and figure it out. A lot of my mentees end up getting a nice chunk of change based upon they credit score and their patience and things of that nature. And if
Right.
they actually follow what I'm telling them to do based upon their scenario, then we're able to move forward, get them a nice lump sum of change.
There you go.
Right? Sorry about that. I'm
You
just
good.
a little tired.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, so, but for myself, I have actually displayed, you want me to say numbers?
Yeah, I mean, we on the Marvel First Show. It's numbers or nothing. It's numbers or nothing. Yeah.
And the group that I'm in, I know I displayed over $1 million.
There you go.
All right,
Mm-hmm.
over, right? But I also help people acquire that if they're in position, but it takes time.
Right.
Nothing happens overnight. And some people come to you like, I'll give you an example. A girl said, hey, I want you to help me get funding. I was like, all right, I hope you get funding, but here, let's go through these steps. She said, no, I just want the funding. I said, you want somebody to give you a fish or do you want to learn how to fish?
Right.
She said, just give me the fish.
Mm-hmm.
I want the fish right now. Just give it to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, but what you going to eat later?
Right.
You understand what
I'm
I'm
with
saying?
you.
So it's very difficult for you to help some people because some people just don't want to be helped.
Yep.
Some people kind of want the lifeline type of thing, all right? And some people actually want the education where they can actually develop and grow and go in their own space and to continue to move forward without somebody like myself being by their side. And so that's what I teach within my mentorship. Learn how to become me mentally, strategy-wise, and then move on, right? And then whatever I've given to you, then you can add on what you feel free to add on to yourself
Right.
as you see fit. Make sense?
Makes perfect sense. And I love that. You said it. I mean, you said it perfectly. You have two types of people. You have people that want the fish given to them and people that want to learn how to fish. Luckily for me, I built a platform like this through bringing on high-level individuals like yourself by providing the tools, the information, the resources to people who are watching so that they can learn how to fish for themselves. And my goal for today, I want to give away so much free game it hurts. You understand? I want people to walk away from this episode and have those step-by-step breakdowns on how they can go out and put themselves in position, similar to what you have been able to do, but then also your mentees have been able to do as well. Is it all right with you if we go ahead and do that?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. Let's break it down. We talked about funding. Like you said, you spoke with a young lady. I know there are steps that need to be taken before you can go get, these ridiculous amounts, right? And it takes time. One of those steps being making sure that our personal credit is where it needs to be. So let's talk a little bit of the credit repair side of things.
Okay.
I get DMs all the time. I'm sure you do too, about one of the more notorious items that you'll see in the credit repair process, dealing with collections. And I know it's something that keeps a lot of people who want funding from getting it. So if I'm watching this episode right now and I'm trying to get a breakdown or just some understanding or insight on how to deal with collections accounts, what is the best way to go about getting one of those removed from my credit report?
Well, first of all, you have to identify who actually owns the account.
Okay.
That's the most important things that people don't understand, right? Ownership is important because you have what you call original credit, somebody that has the original account.
Yeah.
All right? And then you have a collection company or debt collector, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the original creditor has sold that to a debt collector, right?
Yep.
Who actually owns the account? Whoever owns the account is actually liable or actually has legal ability to come after you for money.
Okay.
Make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
So I'll give you an example. So a young lady called me one time. She said, hey, I have a car and the actual, say like it's BMW, right? They said, hey, BMW is actually reporting to my credit report. In addition to that, there's another company reporting to my credit report. I'm like, is it for the actual same account? She said, yes. I said, okay. That's kind of weird because they both can't own the account. I said,
Right.
well, who owns it? She said, I'm not sure. I said, well, call the debt collector and ask them for an assignment of debt.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most people don't know what that is until I started saying it on some of the YouTube channels, things of that nature. So an assignment of debt gives the original creditor the ability to go get a third party to come after you for finances, right? Meaning that they still own the account, they just hire somebody to go get it.
Right.
That's an assignment of debt. But they have to give you that assignment of debt to show that they have legal ties to the original creditor. If in fact they don't give you the assignment of debt, then more than likely they don't have any legal ties to the original creditor. Once they actually have sold that debt or written that debt off and given to the debt collector, then you don't have any financial responsibility to pay the third party. And the reason why you don't have any the financial responsibility to pay the third party is due to the fact that you have never signed any type of legal binding document with that party.
I'm with you.
So every time that you get into an agreement, there's some type of legal documentation that goes there between two parties, if not more, right? So if you never signed any legal documentation with this third party, then how do you owe them any money? Got it?
I'm with you.
Okay. So if they don't have an assignment of debt, you legally don't have to pay them because the original creditor doesn't have the ability to come after you for something that you never agreed to. In addition to that, you can always ask them for paperwork and documentation that shows that they own the account. So with this particular young lady, I said, well, ask them for an assignment of debt. She responded and said, well, they said they don't actually have my account. And the only reason they said that is because she asked them for an assignment of debt, which they knew that was going to be a problem.
Yeah.
I said, okay, well, since they ain't got an assignment of debt, I tell you what you do. Call the original creditor and see if you can pay him. Try to pay him. You hear what I'm saying? Try to pay him, right? Because I know if they don't own the account, you can't pay them. They can't accept payment.
Yeah.
They cannot, right? So when she called, tried to, pay them, they said, we can't accept your payment. Okay, well, therefore, if they can't accept your payment and the actual credit or debt collector isn't saying that they own the account, it has to be deleted. Nobody owns it.
There you go.
You see what I'm saying? Now, the second way of looking at that, because that's a different type of scenario. The second way of looking at that is that whenever you actually have a collection come to you, right, they always have to provide you with a 5-day notice. Always. Within receiving the account. They have to notify you within 5 days of them receiving the account, okay? If they don't notice you and give you a notice within 5 days of receiving the account, then what happens is that they're in violation of the Fair Credit Act. They cannot put someone on your credit report that you're unaware of, all right?
Right.
Because you possibly could have took care of the debt.
Right.
They didn't give you an opportunity to. They just put it on your credit report. So most of the time when these collection agencies are sending out mail, they send out what you call snail mail. And snail mail is regular mail, put a letter in an envelope, put a stamp on it, send it out. Well, how many times have you gotten somebody else's mail in your mailbox?
Tons of times.
Okay then. So who's to say that you actually got the mail? Even if you got it, you didn't get it. Okay? So the only way for them to actually prove that you received the mail is they would have to send a certified with a receipt showing someone with your signature on it. So I tell a lot of my mentees, and you can put the camera on me now. I tell a lot of my mentees, listen, make sure that you ask them if they sent out proper notification. And if they did send out proper notification, ask them to show you the letter they sent out, signed, sealed, with your signature on it, with a receipt. Showing that you received the letter, okay? If, in fact, they can't prove that you actually received the letter, then they don't have no proof that you actually was aware of the debt. So let me show you how that works, right? Because they're blocked in by two ways.
Okay.
One is that they put on your credit report without giving you the opportunity to address it, okay? Because they're supposed to let you know within 5 days. Two is that they put on your credit report, right? And they're reporting something that hasn't been validated. right? Has it been validated, verified, any of that?
Mm-hmm.
They don't already know the situation. So they have to delete it. Either way, they're stuck.
Okay. So we pretty much can leverage either of those 2 points of attack now to go ahead and attack a collection account that we potentially have on our credit report. It could be either or. We're using both at the same time.
No, you use one.
Okay.
Right? That's what a lot of people mess up at, right? So the last one I described is called proper notification.
Okay.
All right, that's what it's described as. If they didn't give you that, then they already violated you in more than one way.
One of the things I've heard you talk about that kind of was like a light bulb moment for me, because I had never heard anyone talk about it before, where you talked about how, for example, we have a lot of people right now who are trying to get a collection off their credit report, and they're disputing the accuracy of the account and saying like, hey, this collection account is inaccurate. But I've heard you talk about that's actually counterproductive to getting that collection removed. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Because the first step you want to actually utilize is you want somebody to prove that account is actually yours.
Yeah.
Right? So if it's me, my collection account, prove it first. Like if they say this is your debt, okay, I'm not going to write a letter saying, hey, this debt is inaccurate or this date is off. I'm not going to say any of that.
Mm-hmm.
We can get to that once you prove that it's mine first.
Mm.
Don't put the cart before the horse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't prove it's mine, I don't care if the balance is off.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if the data is wrong. You got to prove it's mine, right? Now, if you prove it's mine, then we can start talking about some of the other things that could potentially come into play.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Another thing I've heard you talk about as well, one of the things you've talked about in terms of dealing with different creditors or different collections accounts is the leveraging of the CFPB and how we could use certain cases that are going against creditors to our advantage to have negative accounts removed, whether it be cases that these creditors are being sued against, lawsuits that are being brought against them. Could you speak a little bit about that as well?
The creditors that the CFPB has been attacking?
More so how we can leverage lawsuits that are being broken down on the CFPB website to go ahead and get certain negative accounts removed.
So what I tell a lot of people to do, right, is if you have in fact have an issue with your credit report and somebody's reporting you with negative items and things of that nature, most of the time these creditors don't follow the actual Fair Credit Act. They do a lot of legal things. 75% of credit reports have a lot of inaccuracies on them, okay? And so what you do is that you look into the database of a CFPB, right? They have a database with a lot of complaints in there. And many of the times those complaints are actually displayed with results. So if you have like ABC company, right, and they're on your credit report, well, look them up in the database of the CFPB. See what they have already done. See what they already been sued for. If they have already been sued for something that falls in line with what you have, right, utilize the same actual complaint that someone else did to get it resolved, right? And then you don't have to fight so hard because the work has already been done for you, and they already been found in violation. They just don't know that you're finding this information out to use against them. So that's a shortcut.
Hey, business owners, what if I helped you get access to $50,000 in business funding for $1 a day? Would you be interested? Well, inside of my Credit Mastery community, you're going to be getting exclusive access to our in-depth training program that's worth tens of thousands of dollars to give you the exact strategies you need on how to restore your credit and on how to properly structure your business. You're also going to be getting access to a financial consultant with over a decade of experience in the funding space that'll help you reach your financial goals in half the time it would take if you were to do it on your own. And we're going to be giving you 2 coaching calls every week that'll give you the exact banks you need to go to get access to $50,000 to $100,000 in business funding. This is the same community that helped Pat get access to $50,000 in funding from Chase, helped Alvin get access to $8,000 in funding from Amex, helped Matt boost his personal credit score by 150 points, and helped Donna delete a bankruptcy from her credit report. So if you're interested, click the link above or below this video to join now, and we'll see you on the other side of success. Let's go, family. What if we find ourselves in a situation where, because another very common thing too, and I'm sure you run into it, and I've heard you break it down, situations where, okay, we have a negative item on our credit report, we dispute it, we have it removed, but then that that creditor or that credit reporting agency puts that account back on our report.
So that's illegal, right? That's called reinsertion, right? Once it's deleted off your credit report, it can never be put back on. period.
Okay.
And that's why you use a strategy like if you get one thing to delete off your credit report, say like if it's on Equifax, well, you take that same letter that Equifax gave you because each time any modifications happen to your credit report, they will provide you documentation. It's very important for anybody that's fighting anything on their credit to keep all their documentation because you can utilize that documentation to use against the other credit bureaus to get it removed or deleted. Everything on your credit report has to be 100% accurate. So Equifax can't say, hey, I deleted it, we didn't find anything. And TransUnion can say, hey, we verified and validated it. Somebody's lying. Somebody's lying.
Somebody lying. Right.
So since you have one that's saying that, we actually validated or verified it, and another one saying that we could not.
Who's telling the truth?
Exactly. And since it's tossed up in the air, you got to delete it.
What's the difference when we're dealing with reinsertion between an item that's been deleted from our credit report versus an item that's been blocked from our credit report? Because I don't really hear much people talk about that.
Deleted versus blocked?
Yes, sir.
So they need to listen up to this. Okay.
Okay.
Whenever you're using, identity theft, right? To remove things off your credit report, people must understand, and it's very important that you understand. I'm emphasizing this for a reason, because there's a lot of people telling, their clients to use identity theft.
Yep.
Now, understand, whenever you use identity theft, you're kind of jeopardizing yourself.
Okay.
Because if it comes back that you're using identity theft to remove something like financial, like a credit card or a loan, you can be in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay? You could definitely be in trouble, right? So you don't want to use that unless it's for real, because there's too many other ways that you can get something off your credit report a different way. Identity theft is nothing but a block. Remember, I said, whenever a modification is happening to your credit report, either they do an update, they delete something, the credit agency is going to send you documentation stating that. Whenever you use identity theft for accounts, the credit reporting agency doesn't send you any type of documentation at all. Now, for all that's listening, if you don't believe me, if you ever use a FTC report and you put accounts on there, I want you to show me where Equifax, TransUnion, or Experian ever sent you documentation saying it was deleted.
That usually never happens.
It doesn't, because it's blocked. And a block only happens for a short amount of time due to the fact that they're doing an investigation. Once the investigation is over with, that particular account will reappear back on your credit report or is reinserted back on your credit report. Now, when we talked about reinsertion earlier, that's not applicable to you now because it wasn't reinserted. It was blocked. That's the key factor people need to understand.
This is good. This is very, very good. One of the things I've heard you break down, I'd be remiss if I had you come on here and we didn't dive into it, because the two biggest accounts people are asking me about on the channel is collections. But then the second one after that is dealing with student loans, right? A lot of the consultations I get are around, how do I delete student loans? I have delinquent student loans on my credit report. How do I get them removed? You talk about strategies not just around removing the student loan, but also getting compensated as a result of the student loan as well. Can you touch a little bit on that?
Well, a lot of these colleges and institutions have done illegal practices when it comes to dealing with students, okay? And because of that, a lot of them been sued, right? I think you saw on one of my podcasts, not podcasts, but my actual interview with, on the live, that I talked about a particular school. I don't know if you want me to mention that.
You go ahead. You go ahead. If you want to, it's up to you.
University of Phoenix.
Yeah.
Okay? They've been sued a number of times,
Yeah.
right? Because of the illegal practices that they were doing. If you do your research, you've been sued, you actually see that they've been sued for like $230 million. Well, why is that? So those schools that have been practicing and have illegal practices with students now have to pay money back to those students, okay? If in fact they've been found in violation. Now I have a list of schools. You got to come to me for that list.
I got you.
I have a list of schools
Mm-hmm.
that have been found in violations, and they must delete your student loans.
Okay.
There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. So one of the programs that I, normally tell my mentees to go to, and one I've shared with many of different people, is called the Borrower's Defense Program. Now, the Borrower's Defense Program actually goes in and looks at your actual student loans and what school you went to, and if in fact they were ever in violation, then they're going to request them to remove your student loans or discharge your debt.
Mm-hmm. So we would go through the borrower's defense program, and then through us leveraging that, that's what helps us to go ahead and get the student loan removed from our credit report.
And if in fact that school's on the list, then they're going to get you reimbursed as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think one of my checks, I think it was a couple thousand I displayed or something like that, right? But some of these people got back $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 that they paid into their student loans, and then that school was in violation. So it's just have to know how to actually deal with the school that you particularly went to. But that's the Borrower Defense Program.
Mm-hmm.
Now, say if that school wasn't on that list.
Okay.
Right? This is a big one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the school wasn't on the list, a lot of times what happens is that these schools don't have all the documentation they're supposed to have to show that you actually legally owe them.
Right.
All right. Remember I was talking about like people have to have legal documentation in order to say that you owe them? Well, when you go to school, you sign what you call a promissory note.
Yep.
Okay. That promissory note is a legal bonding document that's between you and the actual institution. Back in the day when they used to have credit, they used to have what you call paper mills. Paper mills was a large warehouse where they had documentation they have to go get if in fact somebody was disputing what your debt, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, since we're in the digital age, they don't have paper mills anymore. They just store things on large amount of discs.
Mm-hmm.
But if you pour a lot of water in a glass, sooner or later it's going to overflow.
Yep.
So what happens is that as a digital age, they can save more, but sooner or later things are going to overflow.
Mm-hmm.
So they, being the schools, many times save so much information, they have to purge data. So they put new data in there.
Mm-hmm.
So ask the school for what you call the original instrument of indebtedness.
Say that again. The original
Instrument of indebtedness.
Okay.
Which is reflected back to the actual promissory note. Right?
Okay.
If in fact they don't have the original instrument of indebtedness, well, who do you owe?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the actual legal bonding document that ties you to the loan.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Let me give you an example.
Talk to me.
I got rid of my student loans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I asked them for the original instrument of indebtedness. When I asked them for that, they had people on there that was references. You wouldn't believe who they had as one of my references.
Who was it?
My daughter. She was a kid. She was a kid.
This was on you. So you asked for the original instrument of indebtedness.
All right.
They gave you a list of references, and one of them was your child, your daughter, pretty much.
My child.
Okay.
Okay? There was 3 people on there. You won't believe who the other person was.
I'm listening.
Take a guess.
Granny.
No. It was me.
Okay.
How can you reference yourself?
Mm-hmm.
How?
Mm-hmm.
This is not possible. A reference is the third party,
Right.
not yourself.
Right.
Right? So, right then and there, it told me that they fabricated this document,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not only that, just to prove that, order or request the original instrument of indebtedness twice.
Okay.
Now, why did I say that? Because they made a mistake on the first one, right? By putting my daughter and myself, right?
Right.
So that means they're going to make a mistake on the second one because whoever created the first one probably don't know the person that's going to create the second one.
Right.
They both had different information on there.
Mm-hmm.
Addresses, zip codes, names. So which one is right? It's from the same school. It's only supposed to be one document. It can't be multiple documents,
Mm-hmm.
right? So which one is right? They couldn't get it right, so they had to delete it.
So we're sending our dispute letters, asking for the original instrument of indebtedness.
You're trying to pull it all out of me, man.
I'm just trying to make sure I give them the blueprint. And then from there, to your point, most of these schools are not going to be able to provide the necessary documentation to fulfill the request, and we can leverage that, whatever they provide us, or if they don't provide us anything at all, as a reason for us to go ahead and have that student loan removed from our report. That's pretty much the step-by-step.
That's the step, because when you ask them for the original instrument of indebtedness, they're going to give you a tough time. I promise you. Because they don't have it. So now they're trying to figure it out. Okay, who's going to work on this? We need to figure this out. Who does he know?
Mm-hmm.
You know, who was his friends?
Mm-hmm.
Put his closest friends on here as a reference. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And somebody didn't go to school, whoever made it up, because why would you put me on there as a reference?
Right.
You're talking about me.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to be on some type of comedy skit or something, man. I don't know what's going on with them people, man. It just don't make sense, right? So whenever you're trying to do something, you always go to the actual agreement.
Mm-hmm.
If people don't have documentation of agreement, it's just a handshake, a verbal agreement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those don't work out very well. But people lie, words lie, black and white don't lie.
Paperwork never lies.
Okay? So if you don't have it written down, if it's not actually, a stamp of approval, then what do you have?
There you go. Okay. So we have the information now on different strategies we can use to put our personal credit in position. From there, let's say now our personal credit is exactly where it needs to be. We want to go and get funding. Like you said, you have, I don't know when was the last time I've gone on your page and not seen you coming out of a bank. Like it's at that point now. It's getting ridiculous, Wanzo. Quite frankly, it is. If I'm coming to you now and I want to learn the strategy behind, okay, personal credit is taken care of, but now I want to go and get funding. What's that first step that I need to take to start putting myself in position to go out and get business credit?
Well, always keep in mind that personal credit is really going to be the door opener.
Yeah.
All right. Because people look at it, or institutions look at it like, if you're not taking care of your personal credit, what makes you think you're going to take care of your business credit?
Yep.
It just makes sense
Mm-hmm.
to look at it that way, right? And so your personal credit is important because understand what credit is.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing but a report card of your ability to manage money, right? That's all it is, right? And once people see that, then they're willing to work with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is one thing I want people to know and understand. Banks want to give you money.
Yep.
They just want to trust who they're giving it to, right? So on the personal credit side, you want to make sure it's solid and get the highest limits as possible. Because what you have on the personal side, they normally double or triple it on the business side.
Right.
All right. So if you got 10,000 on the personal side, you're probably only going to get 20, 30,000, or maybe even 10,000 on a credit card on the business side. Right. So the way to really dive into the business side of it is make sure the personal side is solid. But you have to make sure that you're in position and structure your business in a proper proper form in order to get this funding, right?
Right.
So understand what banks are looking for. Learn how to think like an underwriter. Whatever they want, give it to them. It's simple. Understand what they're requesting.
Mm-hmm.
Once you understand what they're requesting, you set yourself up, or you put yourself in position, present them that. How can they tell you no, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of financial institutions request you to be registered with the state for at least 2 years.
Yep.
Right? That's what a lot of require. But I'm going to give you a scenario where I had people that wasn't registered with the state for 2 years.
Break it down.
All right. What happened was that a young lady and a couple, right? They wanted to get business funding, right? So the husband, he had good credit, but he had high utilization. And his business was registered with the state for 2 years.
Right.
But high utilization is a red flag.
Yep.
Because it shows that you're in jeopardy of having financial struggles.
Yep.
Just so the people know, that's how high utilization is looked at. Because a lot of people come to me, I want business funding. You ain't going to get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we have to get down to utilization. But back to the couple. He had high utilization. I said, well, you're married. Maybe we can use her credit. Does she have a company? Yes, she has a company, but her company just opened this year.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, put on your company, and then we'll use her credit on your company. He said, they're taking too long. Then the state they're in, it's going to take too much time to actually get her transferred over or get her put on the company as an officer.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, what does she do? And they told me, what type of job, what type of business it was. How long has she been doing it? She's been doing it over 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you've been doing it over 5 years. Have you had any type of transactions with banks showing that you have income coming in within those 5 years? She said, yes. I say, okay, well, how long have you been registered with the state? 6 months. All right, bet. So I call the bank. I say, here's the scenario. I have somebody that's already been doing business in that business space. They just actually registered with the state this year, but they have financial transactions to show they was already in that line of business.
Right.
I said, all right, give it to the underwriter. Underwriter took a look at it, look at the finances, see the transactions. I understand you just registered state, but you was already in that business space. Got him $150,000.
Okay. And that was from one bank.
Yeah.
On one line. Was it a loan or was it a line of credit?
We do creative funding, so it could be a combination of things.
Okay.
It could be like a credit card with a line of credit in addition to a loan.
Let's unpack that a little bit more, because you talked a little bit about understanding what the banks want. One of the things that I know that is very important when we talk about getting access to funding is building relationships and how that cultivates for us to maximize how much funding we can get access to. But I don't think a lot of people understand what building a relationship with the banks looks like. What are the actual steps I need to take to build a fruitful relationship with the banks to where I'm able to get higher limits and higher approvals that I may be looking for?
Well, again, banks want to give you money, right? Money's no good in a bank. Bank is not in the business of holding on to money. They're in the business of lending money. Again, they just want to trust what they're giving it to, right? So if you walk in a bank and you see and you start a relationship, if you want to start a relationship with somebody, understand that those bankers need traffic. All right? Without traffic, they're not running.
Right.
They're not in business, right? So build a relationship with a bank by starting off by having your own products there, right?
Right.
A checking account, credit card, things of that nature. And let the business banker or personal banker know, hey, listen, I'm in a line or a field where people can potentially use more of your products. Well, how is that beneficial to them, right? It's beneficial to them because people don't understand that these bankers get rewarded either during the year or at the end of the year with a bunch of bonuses. Not only that, it gives them the opportunity to grow within their own institution. So one banker, I won't say no names because he might see this one day, I'm sure. All right. One guy, that I was helping out or whatever, sending traffic his way, because we send, a certain amount of traffic, that it helps him elevate inside of his own bank to be notified. Notable. Right?
Yeah.
Notable by the executives, right? Well, who's this guy bringing in all these accounts? Oh, we need to take a better look at him. Okay, we might need to make him a district manager. We might need to put him not over this branch, but over all the branches on the East Coast. You see what I'm saying? So you're helping them help you. It's a trade-off. Make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
So that's how you start building a relationship with banks. Show them that you have their interests in hand, just like you want them to have your interests in hand. And it offsets. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
The biggest risk that most entrepreneurs take is trying to build a successful business without funding. But that risk is a reality for 1 out of every 3 entrepreneurs because their personal credit isn't where it needs to be in order for them to access that capital. Now, the truth is you can close the gap between where your business is versus where you want it to be by leveraging business credit. But if your personal credit report is poor, 99% of banks and lenders are going to deny you from doing so. And I should know, because a couple of years ago, I leveraged my personal credit report to get funding from Chase to start my company. And now that very same company, Takeoff Financial, is serving entrepreneurs just like you that are looking to restore their credit to get access to 5 to 6 figures in funding. So if you want to go from risk to reward, click the link above or below this video to schedule your free consultation so that we can restore your credit and put you in position to access capital to build the business of your dreams.
How do we go about creating, because one of the fancy terms we hear get thrown around when we talk about getting funding and building these relationships, another one is, some people call it credit stacking, other people call it funding sequences. How do we go about building funding sequences that are also going to maximize how much capital we put ourselves in position to get access to?
Well, I use strategy. Everything I do is all about strategy. That's the only way I move, right? So if you look at it in my mentorship, what I teach my mentees is learn how to get the most you can without any inquiries on your credit report. Think about it. What bank will actually give you money without giving you a hard pull? And
Very few, if any. And most times the products, if for ones that don't do, the products aren't that great.
Yeah, I'll tell you that there's fintech banks that will actually give you money without giving you a hard pull.
Okay.
They'll use a soft inquiry on your credit report, right?
Okay.
So if you start off with them, then you go to the banks that give you multiple products with one pull.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
I'm with you.
So if you get, for example, I got $250,000 out of one bank with one credit required.
That's crazy. Right.
So when you use those type of strategies, right, it's easy to get to $500,000, $1 million based upon what strategies that you're using and what institutions that you're using them with, right? Now, the thing of it is that people have to understand that it's certain products to go after in a sequence. One of the things that's last on my list is always loans.
Okay.
All right? Why is that? Because a line of credit, if you get a line of credit, right? A line of credit is the opportunity for you to access money at any given time. You can let a line of credit sit there for 2, 3, 4 years. Never touch it. What are you paying on? As soon as you get a loan, you have to start making payments that next
Right
month.
away, yeah.
Right? So initially we go for credit cards first, then we go for lines of credit, then loans will last. But if you get a loan, you need to make sure you got something to do with it. It doesn't make sense to go get money and be paying on money and not making it move.
Right. Perfect. One of the things I've heard you also talk about before, especially when it comes to funding, are and there are mixed opinions around this, but leveraging shelf corporations when it comes to getting funding. For those who don't know, what exactly is a shelf corp and how can we use it to our advantage, especially if we're new to the funding space and want to increase how much capital we're able to get?
Well, shelf corps are very beneficial due to the fact that they've already been seasoned with the state. Right?
Right.
Remember, most financial institutions want you to be registered with the state for 2 years, where shelf corps be 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But it's not good to get a shelf corp that's been seasoned for, say, like 15 years, some of that nature. Now, why is that? Because banks will start asking, well, give me your last 10 years of tax returns if you've been with this company that long, right? But if you get one that's seasoned only 2 years, well, you can come up with, you could potentially might be able to provide those 2 years of tax returns, right? But something that's seasoned that long, you can get yourself in a little bit of a debacle. So I never recommend getting some over, 3 years or something of that nature.
Okay. I know we do have to start getting you out of here, but there's one thing I wanted to touch on. I couldn't bring you on here and not talk about it because when I heard you break this down, I had to take a second to step back and really make sure I heard what I heard. Is it true that there's a way for us to purchase real estate without it being reported on our personal or on our business credit report?
Absolutely.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's gonna have to be an exclusive episode.
Can't break it down.
I'll break it down. So there is a way for you to actually acquire real estate without putting it on your personal business credit, right? And that's called subject to. Now, to give you a description of what subject to is that you have people out here that's really struggling with their mortgages, right? Now, at this point in time, there's a lot of pre-foreclosures going on, right? A lot of people don't want foreclosures on their credit report.
Yeah.
So you can actually save them, okay? When you go into a bank to acquire a house, you sign mortgage documents, right? Because you're the original person that's want to purchase the house. Well, when you sign those mortgage documents, you have in there what you call a warranty deed and a security deed. Okay, the warranty deed is secure the warranty deed is yours because you own the house. The security deed is with the bank because they're the first lien holder on the house, right? So you, Marv, say is your house, right? And you're like, hey, I don't want this house anymore. I really want to get rid of it, right? And due to the fact that you want to get rid of it, you might be having some type of financial issues or struggles like that. Where I come along and say, hey, listen, I understand that you're going into pre-foreclosure. So let me stop that for you and actually put some money in your pocket. So what I would request you to do is sign the house over to me, right? And the way that you get the house signed over to yourself is you utilize what you call a quick claim deed. Quick claim deed allows you to actually transfer ownership from the previous owner to a new owner. All right. Now, the benefit of doing that is that the new owner never signed any documentation with the actual financial institution. You did, right? And since you the one that signed the documents with the financial institution, your name is on the hook for the debt, not mine. But when you sign that quitclaim deed and give me the warranty deed, it allows me to communicate with the bank and actually continue to make payments on the house without them ever touching my credit, looking at my finances, or anything of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Did that answer your question?
It more than definitely answered my question. That we gonna have to because I got even more. We don't even have enough time, but I got more questions. But we're gonna have to set up a part 2. Andre Wanzo, thank you so much for coming on here and blessing my platform. I know, like I said, we do have to get you out of here. But before we do, for those who don't know, let the people know, of course, where they can find you. More importantly, some of the different things you have going on.
Well, right now we're definitely still helping people with credit, right? Helping them educate themselves and how to get in a better space with that. Business funding, absolutely. Helping you get funding so you can actually be able to fund your business, go in the right direction, but actually having a vehicle to put that money in once it's acquired, and that'll be real estate, right? Because you can purchase real estate or you can use one of the methods I just described to you. You can actually follow me on A_Wanzo on IG, and you can actually look me up as The Wanzo Way on Facebook as well, right? Just come check me out and reach out to me if you want to at 888-535-0302.
There you go. And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, what are you doing? Take a second, take a minute, take an hour out of your day right here, right now to go ahead, hit the like button and show this episode some love and make sure you get tapped in and wrapped in with all things my guy Andre has going on. And if you haven't already, tell a friend to come back and watch the episode again. As always, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Marvin Francois. That's Andre Wanzo. You guys have been good. We've been great. This has been amazing. Thank you and God bless. Peace, family.
Peace.